Well, welcome, Kimberly. Let's do some quick intros as we kind of get started into our fireside chat. So I'm going to introduce myself, Tanya Dudley with Cofense. I am our CISO. I'm happy to be here and have this conversation. Kimberly, can you give us a quick intro?
Yes, I'm Kimberly Wanick. I work at Mayo Clinic in the Office of Information Security. I'm one of the senior managers.
Josh?
I'm Josh Bartolome. I work here at Cofense. I'm the VP of Global Threat Services.
And then Rohit?
Hi, I'm Rohit Balani, CEO of Cofense.
And Keith?
And I'm Keith Abargwin. I'm the Chief Product Officer here at Cofense.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm happy to get us rolling on our fireside chat. So the first question I want to throw out, Kimberly, is what does intelligent email security mean to you?
Intelligent email security, I think of a couple different things. First and most simply, it's security controls that evolve with the changing threat landscape. Real-time adjustments to the controls, or as close to real-time as possible. The other thing that comes to mind is intelligent email security can't only focus on technical controls. And a lot of security controls we always think of are the technical controls and blocks, but we have to think about the human factor. It's just so important with email. We have to protect our most susceptible, most targeted, and most risky populations. And intelligent email security would do those things.
Josh or Rohit, anybody want to add into additional follow-up?
Yeah, sure. I think Kimberly nailed it. So hence the silence for 2 seconds here with everyone, I think going, well, is there anything to add? But I'd say, I wholeheartedly agree, obviously, with Kimberly on this one. And at Cofense, we strive to develop a system. It's not just a technology or one product, but it's a system that we view as sort of a self-healing, self-evolving email security system that encompasses, as Kimberly said, human input from conditioned humans, technology that knows how to take that in, how to vet out the false positives, how to suppress those, and how to operationalize this data. So if one customer somewhere in the world finds something bad because there was one employee that reported a suspicious email, every other customer of Cofense in the network can benefit from that in as close to real time as possible. So that's really our mission, is much like the navigation app Waze. We try to use both human input and technology to give you the latest and greatest, the best security posture when it comes to email security.
And I think, Josh, as you manage our phishing defense center, right, and our intelligence team, I think that probably has a little bit more close to home meaning to you as well.
Yes, this is the topic I could talk about for quite a while, but I'll keep it trim here. I want to hone in on, Kimberly, what you said, the real-time adjustments. I think that's kind of the key thing with intelligent email security. A lot of people think email security is a very static set. I have controls in place, it works. The reality is, or that attackers aren't really changing how they're doing email attacks. It's constantly changing. I mean, it's just kind of like antivirus systems on a computer. Everybody has one, but they also have all these other controls because it isn't, a silver bullet. And intelligent email security to me is taking it with that lens, being able to identify what is happening today. What are we seeing today across the entirety of the ecosystem? Here at Cofense, we look through tens of thousands of emails every single day, and there's things we see every day that we didn't see yesterday. And being smart about that, and how do we adjust that? How do we instrument that, as Rohit was saying, how do we make that a cohesive integration across either the Cofense product platform or, to help our customers? But knowing that that's the case is really probably one of the bigger points in my head in regards to intelligent email security, is knowing that you have to be intelligent. There's a lot of things that you need to be intelligent about for email security. It's not just a static, I have email security situation.
Being able to stay ahead of that dynamicism, that changing landscape that we're seeing every day, can be done not only from having talented people recognizing what's going on, but the tools behind them to be able to respond very, very quickly. And that combination of human and tooling is really what we focus on when it comes to our product set as well. We want to make sure that the products are responsive. They are they're leveraging the data as it's evolving and taking advantage of that, as well as contributing to the evolution of our understanding of that threat space. So really important that as you mentioned, Kimberly, thinking about this holistically and leveraging the tools that allow you to get that picture as clearly as possible.
So Kimberly, as you think about email security, what business challenges were you facing that prompted you to probably seek this more comprehensive email security solution?
When Mayo created the Office of Information Security back in 2013, they centralized all of the various cyber professionals that had historically been spread or decentralized across dozens of practice locations. And it allowed us, by centralizing, to have our cyber teams specialize by topic and address those topics universally across the entire organization. And two of those specializations included education and awareness and a robust security operations center. That's where Cofense came in. So education and awareness is where we started. The first couple of years of the office's existence, so 2013 to 2015 approximately, Mayo introduced the reporter button and started Phish Me simulations not too long after that. And that was really to train email recipients on using the button through the simulations, and more importantly, how to recognize suspicious emails. But at that time, our Security Operations Center handled all of the reported emails in-house. So the real malicious emails that were being reported, or suspected malicious emails that were being reported, were all handled in-house. So fast forward to 2017, and Mayo Clinic's continuing to grow. In fact, since we implemented the button, our employee base has expanded over 30%. So it's a lot more people sending in suspected phishing emails. And also the training was starting to work. People were properly reporting suspicious items at a much higher rate. And so we needed help with triage. And that's where Managed Phish Me Triage, which is what it was called at the time, or PDC, that's when we started with that service line. And it really helped us scale all of that training and education that had been put in place, scale our responsiveness to it so that we could deal with getting back to people as quick as possible and reinforcing that they were doing the right thing. And then now in more recent years, we started seeing our reporting rates decline gradually, and they continued to decline over time. And it really was pretty obvious that the way we'd rolled out the phishing button, the reporter button, was on our traditional desktop, on-site, on-campus Outlook application. We didn't have it on mobile devices, and a bigger chunk of our employees were accessing their email primarily on mobile. And we didn't have it on webmail. And again, when we all got sent home for COVID, and now we're about 10,000 of us are staying home permanently as remote workers, webmail is huge volume of where people are working out of versus the more traditional desktop application. And so we needed to change where that button was located. We've always given them the option to manually forward it to phishing at Mayo, but it's hard to remember, especially if you've always used that button. It was easy. That was how you were trained. And you knew the training said, or you can forward it here. And people didn't always remember that. So they ignored it. They deleted it if they were worried about it in many cases. At least that was our suspicion, is what was happening. And so we have now implemented Reporter for Mobile that puts it out in webmail. It puts it into the mobile environments. And immediately we've started to see our reporting rates skyrocket again. So we think as we do more simulations over the next couple months with that new existing button in all of these environments where employees have migrated to do their work, we're going to start to see our reporting rates on the simulations be back up into the range that they had been before, when we first implemented.
And that's great that you have that indicator, right? Like, why is our report rate dropping, right? To go look and dig into that a little bit deeper. Josh, Rohit, or Keith, anybody want to kind of weigh in here a little bit?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting, Kimberly. Something that occurred to me: your journey is so familiar to so many of our customers. Starting off with the Fish Me product and the Reporter product and triage and so forth. Now that you're leveraging the PDC fully, are there some business effects of that you're also seeing that you might be able to share that are, your response times and the information you're getting from the PDC is obviously, constantly evolving. And I'm sure you're seeing that on a pretty regular basis.
Yes, I'm trying to think of some good examples to help answer that question. Our mean time to containment has gone way down. It used to be way over 24 hours is mean time to containment when there's a reported email. And now we're getting down into the, single digits. And PDC, of course, we're seeing those metrics and their response time has dropped as well. So as Cofense has improved, it gets it back into our team's hands to start removing it from inboxes as quickly as it's identified. If you guys can identify within minutes that, yes, this is legitimate malicious or it's legitimate business, then that gets our team moving very fast to start containing it within all of our various boxes and pulling it out and containing that risk.
Yeah.
And I can weigh in on that too. In one of the first socks that I built, we actually kind of, this was back in mid 2000s. We exact same journey you just mentioned. We kind of deployed out our own button, and then immediately my SOC team hated me. Because of just the volume. I mean, I think it was like the first day we got over 1,000 emails in, and it was still kind of a small growing SOC team, and they all literally turned at me and said, "What did you do?" And I know I'm a little biased on the PDC side, obviously, but having a team that's their focus, that's their dedication, and they can go through an email, tear it apart, analyze, and provide just those salient points for the rest of your SOC team, your incident response team, your malware, your EDR teams. The quickness of that response versus kind of having a SOC team try to analyze everything, look at every alert in every system, kind of having that breakout. If the PDC was around 12 years ago, that's one of those scenes I jokingly say internally, I would have picked it up in a heartbeat. One, because my team would stop yelling and throwing things at me, but also just that speed of response, like you said, processing within minutes instead of when they finished these other things and they needed something different to look into or things along those lines. So I think that, and talking to colleagues across, the field over the years, it's the pain point everybody has. It's just that volume just keeps increasing, and how do you deal with it? It's, analysis fatigue after a while for most SOC orgs.
The other benefit, to go back to Keith's question, I think it's allowed our SOC to focus on the next tier of risk. So PDC not only tells us these are malicious, but they give us another category that says these are scam. So they aren't necessarily ones that would be treated the same, but they've isolated that batch as these aren't good either, but here you go. And so now our in-house SOC can say, hey, we want to look at those too. We want to work those. And they have the opportunity to have them all carved out and packaged up for them by the PDC. And the PDC is basically giving them the easy button for the malicious fish Now they can dig into the scam emails and decide what they want to do with those.
Rohit, go ahead. I know you've been.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
chatting.
Kimberly said something much earlier, which was interesting to me, which was about getting the end user the feedback on based on what they reported, and I think that's a very key element to highlight, because when we first launched triage and the reporter button many years ago, a lot of people would suppress that reporting back to the user, saying, "Oh, we don't need to do that." And what they would see is actually there was hardly any reporting by the end users, which is quite natural. I mean, if you were told to report something and you felt like it was going into a black hole of sorts, it's just human tendency to not want to do that again. But once you're engaged and, hey, thank you for reporting that, that actually was a true business email compromise, and this is what it is, and you helped save the organization a lot of pain and potentially a lot of money. Thank you. So I think that element is huge. And then the other thing I was just going to say, Kimberly, is we are constantly striving, and the two people I get to talk about it, the two that actually work in their teams on executing are here, and Josh and Keith, on continuing to amp up the level of automation we provide our customers via the PDC and every product offering. And while we've made quite a few strides, we have a long ways to go, and we're continuing along that journey. So what we expect is, we track internally across our customer base in the PDC, what is the percentage of attacks that we are identifying in an automated fashion. And why that's important is because that happens quicker versus those that required manual intervention. We have seen about a 3-fold increase in the last 18 months on the attacks in the automated category because of our efforts. And I just, while it may not be 3-fold because it's hard to scale as the base number grows, we anticipate that, well, maybe Josh will surprise us.
So as we move on to the next question, there's one thing so Josh reminded me of when his SOC wanted to turn it off. What the last 2 orgs I worked at, the first, we were one of the first to roll out Reporter way back when. And then the last one I was out, they all said, turn that thing off. Like, why, what did you do to us, right? And then secondly, about the responses, that is just another opportunity for training, right? And I also having been worked in finance, right? And those are a lot of what we see today. If you're not getting back to them, right, do I gotta pay that bill, right? Do I need to do that? So if you don't get back to them, they're going to interact with that thing that potentially is malicious. So as we move on to the next question, I wanna ask, we know our organization's security controls are in place. So tell us how Cofense helps you address the threats that still land in the inbox. So I think we kind of covered a little bit, but if there's anything else that, in there that we haven't talked about yet, it would be awesome.
Yeah, the one thing I haven't talked about is Validator. So it's been very informative to us. It was made available as a pilot or beta test last year, and we took advantage of it. So as part of our security program maturing over the years, we've spent more and more time testing our security controls, and through penetration tests or red team exercises. So Validator was just an extension of that. It was giving us insight into how strong our segs were, our gateways, how effective they were. And the part that was very appealing to me is that it required very, very, very little human effort. Your team did it, or your automation tools did it. We didn't have much care and feeding for the tools. We had no investment of hours. It was happening for us, and then we would get the results through our normal Cofense touch base with our account manager. So it was like someone was doing red team and pen testing for us on our email gateways, and the results fell in our lap. So not only could we see how our gateways were performing, but it would give us opportunities, some intelligence on how to strengthen them. Where are the gaps? Yeah.
So Josh and I got to actually kind of partner on that one together. I loved being on that POC, but I do want to clarify that we were we're testing your controls. It's more of a control test. We're not actually pen testing your infrastructure of your
Correct.
email gateway. So I don't know, Josh, if you want to lead into that anymore.
Yeah, it was more along the lines of validating what does and doesn't get detected throughout all of the filters. And it was enlightening for us as well. I mean, we had a hunch as we, you know, as Tanya said, her and I kind of spearheaded a lot of this for the beta. And it was enlightening to us, the volume of threats that were actually able to make it into the inbox. And, you know, the reason for that entire premise of Validator, not to go too far into it, but, you know, every other security product has controls and audits and independent third-party testing. Email gateways don't. So it's kind of been a black box. So this was kind of our way of Cofense's way of kind of shedding that light into that area to kind of see how good is it. And I look at, you know, email gateways as like antivirus. You have to have it. It covers the, you know, 70-80%, but everybody also has supplemental controls, and you need to know where your gaps are because you don't know what to address, or if something happens, you need to know it might happen over here. It's, I mean, your standard risk methodology, you know, for cybersecurity. So just knowing your lines and limits, so to speak, helps you plan, you know, for the safety of your organization and your employees and your customers.
Yeah, what's been you know, eye-opening to me, and you know, obviously Josh and Tanya and Keith see the technical results more closely every day from Validator in aggregate fashion. But what's been eye-opening to me, and just one trend I've observed. So a lot of people have asked me, hey, over the years, Microsoft has improved their advanced threat protection capabilities that come, you know, sort of with that E5 bundle that they sell the larger customers. And, you know, what I've been observing is that is indeed true. And, you know, when via our validator results, we've seen Microsoft SEG efficacy versus that of any of the other pure play security SEG vendors, it's gotten to about equivalent. And so, you know, it's getting a lot of CISOs and email security people to think, well, why am I spending all this money on a SEG vendor in addition to what I get from Microsoft? So, you know, we really saw this paradigm shift kicking off about 18 months or so ago. And that's really been prompting our strategy and our thinking to be complementary to what Microsoft does, not stepping on their toes, trying to be a good partner to say, Microsoft's going to take care of, like Josh said, that 70% of the basics of the attacks coming in. What do we need after that? You know, we need a conditioned employee base. We need easy reporting. We need a rapid detection and response mechanism. And we need every one of our customers helping each other. And then you continuously validate, as you said, Kimberly, with Validator to ensure whether it's us, it's Microsoft, whatever technology, if there's something that's a gaping hole, it can get fixed quickly. So we're finding that to be quite a sea shift in the last 18 months is, you know, what I would say is traditional SEG vendors are being questioned now is in terms of, you know, what is your purpose of existence?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's move on to our last question here. And how do you leverage Cofense insight on the latest threats to train your employees? So leveraging, you know, our intelligence, you know, maybe what you see in your triage instance, maybe, or even just how you're selecting, you know, what is that next simulation that you're going to do to train your employees to keep them on top of current?
Yeah, we absolutely every time leverage triage to select or build our phishing simulations. When we see real malicious emails come through, we need to measure how resilient our high-risk groups are, or even the general populace, how resilient they are to that attack. There's much less value in training our employees on hypothetical campaigns or measuring resilience to a fictional attack, no matter how clever we think we are. We want them to practice recognizing the real thing. And we want to provide our leaders with the data from an authentic test. And you can't get much more authentic than using a real email that got through and someone reported.
It's amazing. I just want to tell everyone we didn't buy Kimberly a drink to say this. You know, it's honestly, this is our pitch because, you know, having done phishing simulations for over a decade, we've learned a lot of lessons across. We've been fortunate to serve some of the largest organizations across the world and learn a lot. And one of the key learnings in the very early stages, when we were sort of the only provider of phishing simulations, it was very tempting. And we went down that path over a decade ago of, we had a team of people that would concoct phishing simulations every day. I say we still have a team of people that doesn't concoct them, that come up with realistic ones. But this was literally like we would have an internal hack fest. What do you think would be a cool? And, there would be these beautiful, elaborately written phishing templates. And, we all were very proud of them. And then we learned when we saw real attacks, they don't quite look that way. And we were taking people down a path of maybe training them in an inauthentic way on what the threat is. So our focus over the last 5 years at Cofense has really shifted to, we've got intelligence on what the real threat is. Let's templatize those, give those to our customers in terms of the majority of broad-based threats. Of course, love hearing the fact that, triage operators and the PhishMe operators at your organization or PDC are working hand in hand to say, hey, what are the types of attacks you're seeing that we should simulate? So it's sort of a real-time inoculation, speaking to someone at Mayo Clinic. That's the analogy I could come up with. And it's fascinating to hear. I'm really, very pleasantly surprised and happy to hear that that's how it's happening. Because oftentimes our customers ask us, when they look at our templates, they look rather blah, the ones that are real threat based. And the reason for that is I always tell them, we leave them authentic. We don't pretty them up. The bad guys don't always flower up the email. They just literally take that and put it in the product so you can leverage.
The hardest ones are the most concise.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, the funniest thing was the one really sophisticated phishing attempt that was made against me a few years ago emulated our then CTO, and it was very elaborately written. That was one of the giveaways. I said, he never writes like that. It was all this adulation about dear Rohit and this long email. I'm like, come on, he's my co-founder. He doesn't say dear. He doesn't write long emails to me like that. It's more like CHK this out ... and here's a link.
Kimberly, I think what you described is a super healthy approach to it, and I'm glad that the way you're leveraging the products together is really the intent of it. We've never sought to have a Netflix-sized collection of phishing simulations that don't really matter to people. We're really about focused time and making sure people are seeing what they need to see in the time that they need to see it, so they can actually learn from that and use that knowledge to respond as we want them to, i.e. report it so that we can do something about it. So it's wonderful to hear that you guys are successfully doing that.
Well, Kimberly, as we wrap up today, I just want to ask, is there one last piece of advice that you'd like to offer to other security leaders that are attending today?
I guess the thing that has really been solidified in my mind in the more recent years is, when we first started out, we were really focused on driving down the click rate and focusing on the repeat clicker population. But there was only so far we could go with that. I mean, we got them down to a very low number and we were really thrilled, but we're now trying to focus on how do we build the rate of reporting. Because the more people reporting, the more compensation there is for those people who you will never be able to stop clicking. There's so many legitimate reasons that something might sound realistic to a certain populace, and or people who just don't learn in a traditional way, and so this, they're going to keep clicking. So of course, we still give repeat clickers extra practice, and we have extra educational opportunities. We don't ignore it, but we're trying to put our time towards the non-reporters, those who typically ignore the simulations. How do we convert them to reporters? So that's the real value, is increasing the number of control points, those human sensors that are helping compensate for those who may always be susceptible.
Yeah, and then that leads to your containment time, right, as you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
So that everyone plays a role in that. So, well, I want to thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate the engaging conversation and the insight that you're being able to bring, and just the value that you have been able to recognize with Cofense products. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you.